All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the mic down. If you all could introduce yourselves and let everyone know what movie you directed.
I'm Amanda Davidowski, and I directed Lovesick.
I am Sean Thrunk. I directed Saving Slick.
I'm Alyssa DiPalma. I directed The Things We Earn.
And I'm Cristian Caamano. I directed Hide and Seek.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Yeah. So first question, this is kind of, you can also just pass this down, but first question kind of goes to all of you. How did you come up with the ideas for your projects? Because they're all so, unique and so different to each other. Just how'd you all come up with your ideas?
So for me, it started in my Film 3 class. I was just trying to brainstorm ideas because I was preparing to take advanced screenwriting next semester, and I was trying to think, okay, I want to be on top of this. And I just had this idea of a hand coming out of the ground, and I thought about Corpse Bride, but I was what if we reversed it? And then that first shot of the hand was really what kind of did it for me. And then from there, I just kept developing it further and further, and that's what we have now.
Yeah, so with me, I work a lot for the 3D Film Archive. I make bonus features. This film was actually a bonus feature for the Robot Monster 75th Anniversary Blu-ray release, so go check that out if you're interested. It's a very silly movie. But yeah, for the past year now, I've been working on a feature-length documentary about Bob Furmanek and the work that he does, and he's been a very good friend. And so when he said, hey, I want to do some cool bonus features, what do you have in mind? He would tell me the great stories, about how he would find these old films in the vaults, and the stuff about Trustin Howard I just found really interesting. So I said, hey, why don't we do a quick little film about that one? And he said, yeah, and he just watched it. So there you go.
I actually sold my mother's ashes at an estate sale. No, kidding. I did drive by an estate sale with my friend when we were going apple picking, and I was like, man, imagine selling something you really shouldn't have sold there. And the idea kind of shaped around that. And I used that for my advanced screenwriting class.
The idea for Hide and Seek I've had since during high school, because I'm very into paleontology, and the original idea was some birds are able to replicate voices, and I thought that it would be really interesting to make a horror short where you have because I'm a paleontology person, I go with dinosaurs, so I wanted to have a horror short where initially the idea was, because I drafted this on a plane from Taiwan, but the idea was there'd be two brothers that were estranged, and they used to play hide and seek as kids, and then one goes out into the night because they hear something replicating the voices that they'd use when they'd play. But eventually that when I got into film 1 and we had to do our 5-minute shorts, I pulled that idea out and I realized, well, I can't do this, and this. So it turned into two estranged friends get into an argument, they leave, and then one's calling out to the other for them to come back inside. But it's actually, yeah. But eventually it devolved into hide and seek when we got rained out. Last spring there was a really bad storm. It wrecked my computer because I brought it with us out. So we got into SCM, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and we just decided to improvise it from there, and eventually that led into hide and seek when we saw all the dark corners in this very bright building. So.
Yeah, bear with me on the mic here. All right, so we're going to go one by one down the line. I'm going to ask you all some questions about how you made the film. So Amanda, we'll start with you. So you used a lot of effects to create the zombie character. So how?
That's pretty broad. So I worked with a special effects makeup artist. Her name is Casey Weir, and she's great. If any of you have met her, I'm sure some of you know her here. I know I was talking with her, and I bought some prosthetics, and I sent her some reference pictures, and we did a test makeup day just so I could see like how long it was going to take to do makeup like the day of set, and we came up with what you guys saw, and I loved it. It turned out better than I imagined. So everything, his face was all practical. I think there was one shot, we had like a close-up in the bedroom where you could kind of, I don't know, something was going on with the prosthetic that day. You could like see the edge, and my editor, Frank, back there, he did some magic and he smoothed it out. So that close-up of him in that bedroom, like, you can't even tell the prosthetic's there. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Sean, your turn now. So I'm assuming Mr. Slavin did other projects other than just the one that you did, right? And if so, have you seen any of them, and do you have a favorite that you weren't able to cover in your film?
So Trustin has a really strange little go about. I know he was in the Elvis film Blue Hawaii. I haven't seen that one, but he's the bartender who gets punched. That's him. So that one, probably.
All right. So Alyssa, so once you came up with the idea, right, what went into the process of actually coming up with like the full script and getting it to the point where, you had all the different pieces of what went into the actual final product?
Thank you. So before this film, I was actually in my advanced screenwriting class. I was working with a completely different idea, and I kind of hit a wall with that idea, and that's when I was like, all right, screw it. Like, I'm just going to kind of start off with something new. And surprisingly, this came a lot easier. Like, it formed very quickly. And I love symbolism. I love using motifs. And so the idea of pairing the harshness of like the guilt of losing a loved one versus you have like that childlike wonder, pairing that with like the idea of fairy dust and what happens and how much do we keep when a person passes away. I kind of was like, how do I pair that together? And the idea kind of like formed around that.
Thank you. And then Cristian. So kind of similar to what I asked Amanda about the makeup for the zombie. So you had a lot of, I'm assuming, visual effects for your project. How?
The how is really easy, Blender. But more going into it. The model isn't my own. I actually took a model of the velociraptors from Jurassic Park, and then I threw the feathers onto it because I wanted to like have that almost not unique, but that silhouette to it. But I do a lot of work in Blender, not animation-wise. This was the first thing I ever properly animated, but I had played around with models from Jurassic Park just to, put them like posing and everything, and then it was from there. 3D animating, in my opinion, animating in Blender is a lot like stop motion to me, and since since being a youngster, I would always I liked to make stop motion videos, whether that be with Lego or toy models, etc. So to me, it was sort of just that process of being able to tweak everything and go through the timeline. Compositing was the most difficult part, adding it into the scene, because there was a few times where I just had to just bite the bullet and like do a still frame. For parts that people don't even see that the animal's in it. Like there's a shot where it's looking at Sam, our actor in the white, and we whip pan to that hallway over there, and it's just a still frame of it standing there, and I just tracked that to there. There's a lot of visual effects in the film, and most of it's CG and. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, my apologies, but just going into Blender and then combining that with just the masking tool in Premiere. That basically was all I did.
All right, going down the line again. So Amanda, you with your zombie character, I noticed that for the zombie character, you had them act more like a normal person rather than just like a stereotypical like brains, So like, what was there any reasoning behind that, or how was that compared to other zombie movies?
So I know everyone calls it a zombie movie, but he's technically not a zombie because he doesn't eat people or brains. I just, like I said, I got inspiration from Corpse Bride, and it's just a corpse reanimated. So that's why he acts more, I guess, how he was when he was alive. It's just, the decay and everything because he's been dead for like a year. So yeah, I didn't want him to. I didn't want him to seem like a monster. I wanted him to seem more like a human, to give him like a likable like personality. I didn't want him to be the villain in the film, even though he kind of he gets a little violent, but just a little bit. But yeah, no, I just wanted him to seem more like human and charismatic a little bit.
All right, so Sean, this is getting a little more, less about the technical side of things, more about the personal side of things with this project. How do you think, if he was alive, how do you think Slick Slavin would view the state of movies and 3D movies specifically?
When it came to Trustin, he only really did the one quick little 3D short. I mean, they filmed that in front of a burlap sack outside. That was definitely, that was during the height of the golden age of 3D, and the reason he got the gig was because, the director found him Phil Tucker found him at an Alaskan nightclub and was like, hey, you're funny. So I don't really think he would necessarily care about the state of 3D. When it comes to the state of movies, I think he would probably feel the same that any 90-year-old does. Too loud. Yeah.
Thank you. That snaps off. So, Alyssa, I noticed in the cast list you had some family members credited. What was the pitch to them for this project? Like, how did that go?
It was, hey, I need you. Exactly. So my sister, Lauren, played woman who bought the box. And that originally was actually supposed to be my mom. And then last minute things had to get moved around to a point where my mom had work the day that she was supposed to play the woman, and I was going to get somebody else to be the dead mom. And then I ran inside and I ran out to my sister's room and I was like, I need you to be in my film. And she was like, no, I have to. She was like, yes, but she was like, I need a minute to put on like makeup and get ready and know the lines. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, you'll figure it out. Like, it's fine. Yeah, and of course, I'm so thankful for my family for being so supportive of me. Letting me use. This is the second film I've made where I've used my house as my own set. So I'm very thankful that they're supportive, that they want to be a part of it. I even had my cousin Danielle, who was the behind-the-scenes photographer, because she's a film student at Marist. So she wanted to come and help out too. So yeah, just very thankful for the love and support from my family.
Yeah, the DiPalma family.
Tell Brian I say hi. So Cristian, what was it like for your actors, like acting against with like something that wasn't there? Like what did you guys do on set for your actors?
What's funny about that is I don't want to say I went for an almost old style approach, but almost any time an actor is reacting to something, I'm just off camera. So in the Evil Dead shots where we're running towards the actors and everything, that's all me, and I'm saying if I catch you, we're gonna have to do this 30 more times or something like that. And when the door opens and Sam gets dragged, that was the shot that I looked forward to the most because I had Jedrick Villar, my director of photography. I've worked with him on my past 2 films. Great director of photography. But I had him. I went through the motion with him and Jay, my other actor, to go up the stairs, and we went through that 3 or 4 times to get the timing right with Sam. And then I had Jedrick yell action while I was standing on the door out there by the stairwell, and there was a lot of me being the creature, so there was a lot of just them reacting to me. And if I needed to direct them a little more, I'd say like imagine that I'm trying to kill you, or something like that. There was a lot of that whole you're running for your life. I'm going to get you, and involved in a lot of it. So the door would open, I'd grab Sam by the leg, yank him out. We had to do that shot 3 or 4 times, and it was always a blast for that one. But yeah.
And I've got one last question for each of you. So as long as we have time, Peter, somewhere. We have time? Okay, good. All right. So Amanda, do you have any advice for filmmakers who want to do something as makeup heavy as your film was?
Number one, plan in advance and find a really good makeup artist who's willing to work with you to get your vision. And also, along with that, just find a really great team of people to work with who are passionate about your project and who want to help you get your vision out there, And that's really all I can say. Should I just pass it down?
No, I have a different question.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So for Sean, for you, if he was alive today, how do you think Slick Slavin would be viewing his legacy now that he has, his movie got a new re-release, he's got this documentary. How do you think he would be viewing the way that he is viewed today?
Yeah, so in the early 2000s when they did the 3D Film Expo, Trustin was still alive at that time. Bob and him had communicated. And so, he was able to see his little short play in front of an audience again. Not as great restored, but, he loved it at the end of his life. He finally, this was something he did in the 50s. All of a sudden in 2005, he's like, oh my God, as me again. But no, he was very happy with it. And right at the end, there's a little stinger where to himself, he said the kid did good. He was proud of himself and he should have been. So I think he'd be even more pleased knowing that that there's a home release of it coming out.
Alyssa, my last question to you is: you have a lot of the imagery at the beginning and end of your movie with the chalk. So it's kind of a two-part question. First of all, where in the writing process did that come into play? And second, how many pieces of chalk had to sacrifice their lives for this project?
So yeah, like I said before, I love using symbolism. If I can find a way to use symbolism in any piece of my work, I try to, because I think it's so beautiful to compare different themes using that. Ever since I was little, I was actually using chalk to make fairy dust as something that I've actually been doing since I was a kid. That came from my own life. My sister and I and my neighbors, we would take chalk and just grind it down to dust on the driveway and call it fairy dust, and that we would, play fairies and everything. And then that line that Marnie says of why do I buy you chalk if you're just going to turn it to dust? That's an actual line from my dad. But yeah, I consider myself a storyteller and a creative writer before a filmmaker. And so when going into these kinds of things, my first instinct is how do I tell this story in the most imaginative, creative, illustrative type way. And I just really like the idea of pairing that idea of chalk, that what's associated with chalk, that childlike innocence, the imaginativeness, the creativeness, paired with something as dark and gritty as ashes, selling those ashes, the guilt that comes with that, especially with Marnie and her internalized guilt with her mother. The idea of pairing that together, I was like, if I'm able to do that, then I think, the plot will come with that.
All right, then Cristian, last question to you. Again, as we've talked about already, you used a lot of visual effects and a lot of animation with your thing. Was there any kind of backup plan in case you were getting into the editing and suddenly it can't render, or suddenly, I'm not able to get this shot the way was there any kind of backup plan in case things didn't work out in post-production the way you wanted it to?
No. There were a few shots that I think I had to sacrifice. I can't think of them now because clearly they weren't that important. But I know that in terms of, I had enough. I don't want to say faith in my ability to render, because it was my first time, going through it, and I had almost every shot there I had rendered twice. I rendered it once in real time and once in an actual rendering engine that doesn't look terrible. So rendering it the second time, almost every shot took at least 3 hours. I had it rendering overnight while I was editing the whole thing, and then I'd export it into Premiere. The colors were all off, but we had shot everything. I think we shot it 2 or 3 weeks before anything was due, and all of the photography we did was all it was all done in one very late night. So when it came to doing all the visual effects, I didn't know that it would look good, and I'm still not fully happy with how it looks. I think that some things can look better. Obviously, like, audience reaction is very different from seeing this than seeing something that's of professional quality. And I've been trying to work on being better at animating, and it's been I don't want to say it's been a struggle, because it's not my field. That's what the lovely VFX artists in existence are for. But just dipping my toes into it, doing those few shots, it was like, I need to get this done. And if something went wrong, I think Blender crashed 3 or 4 times for each shot. And I had to. There are times if the camera's moving slightly, I have to track every movement. If it doesn't look right, all right, freeze frame, and then I'll work with it. And so there wasn't a backup plan. It was just brute force it, and if it doesn't look right, find a way to make it look passable at least. So that was the thought.
All right. Well, Amanda, Sean, Alyssa, and Cristian, thank you very much for joining us. And on with the rest of the festival.